What's up, my friend? Welcome back to Finding Direction. And as we kick off today's episode, one of the things we've started to do quite a bit on the show is remembering to point our focus in the right way as we start off the day. And one of the best ways you can do that is with this piece that we call gratitude, right? Being grateful for something that's going on in your life right now, rather than all the chaos and, sometimes distracting things that can pop up in your life that don't help you build a life that you love. So what we want to do before we dive into any of the juiciness that I promise you is coming on today's episode, as I just want you to think about what's something you could be grateful for in your life. Maybe it's the heart beating in your chest. Maybe it's a friendship, a relationship you have. Maybe it is something magical that happened in your day to day, or maybe it's even something really, really small that you could just be grateful for. So find one thing in your life you could be grateful for. Take that in. Give yourself a moment to sit in the space of gratitude. And once you do that, hopefully you got it by now, I'm going to give you a little bit more info about our guest today. Now, our guest today is Anna P., and we don't explain her last name because it is extremely confusing, and you'll see it in the description here. But Anna P. goes by Anna, and a little bit about Anna. She is a full-time event planner. She's a content creator. You may have seen her stuff on social media, and she's someone who described herself. You hear her say this. I thought it was beautifully said, that she's someone who's continuing to figure it out every single day. So you're going to get a lot from this episode. A few of the things that we dive into is how you can start removing the filters in your life of who you are, quote unquote, supposed to be. We talk about how you can stop identifying with your work and identify with who you truly are. And we also talk about how you can deal with burnout, something that Anna is a big, big, big believer that it's happening, and how you can start to move through that and ultimately get to a better quality of life immediately. So those are a few things you can expect in today's episode. And without further ado, we are going to dive right in. Here we go. All right, Anna, welcome to the show. I'm pumped to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And so as we kick this off, I would love it if you kind of give our listeners a little bit of an idea of like just who you are, what you do, and just give us a little bit of background on who Anna is.
Oh man. So one of the things I always say is that I have no idea who I am, but I'm working on it.
I love that.
I am a full-time event planner, which I always thought would be who I would be for the rest of my life. And it used to be my entire identity and take up all of my time. And in the last couple of years, I've realized that's not quite who I want to be. So I found myself somehow creating content, and now I am in some sort of a mental health, motivational comedy realm online, and finding myself along the way. And it changes every day for sure.
Yeah. So cool. And I think it's a really good way you said it. It's like you're, constantly figuring it out. And I think as we go through life, we're always kind of figuring out the next chapter of ourselves, right? We may have an idea of like part of what we do, but we're always adding more pieces kind of to our puzzle. So you mentioned at one point that kind of everything changed as far as like you thought you wanted to be an event planner, and whatever it was, something happened that kind of like shifted your paradigm and like who you were. And so I'm curious for you, like, what was that shift basically?
The pandemic. So when it started, we got shut down right away. We had an event on like March 15th, and it was the first one that we kind of, didn't really know what to do about. And then from there, it was every event for a year and a half. We canceled like 30 events in the first couple of months, and it was, detrimental. It was also the first time in my life I've had a break. Because you go like your whole life, you go to school, you go to college, you get a job, you start your job. And I've been at that job every day of the week since 2011. And then it just kind of went from there. Like I had all this time to figure out who I was.
Yeah. Huh. What do you feel like was one of the biggest lessons in that period of like space, I guess, is because like I think like you said, it's like sometimes we're so focused and moving that we don't take a second and look at, well, like, well, where am I even running? Right. And it's so powerful to be like, wait, let me like zoom out on my life and actually like take a picture. And I think silence is a really good way to do that. So for you, yeah.
The weirdest thing was kind of when all the dust settled, because there was still a few months of just like chaos of trying to figure out how to cancel all these events and like what was going on. But once that all like settled and there was really nothing to do, we all got laid off. And it was, I kind of looked at my life and I was like, what did I do? And that was the main thought I had, was like, what did I do? I had so much time to sort through, like, do I like this? Do I want to do this? I started just doing activities and I was like, oh my God, there's so many other things I could be doing than planning events and working 7 days a week, and all for the last 11 years.
Yeah.
Wow. And I also had like one of the worst depressive episodes of my life, because that was probably the most emotions I've ever gone through in that quickly of a span of time.
Yeah.
And that'll change everything too. I found myself like laying in my yard crying, and I was just like, not only has my whole life changed, like I no longer have the job I thought I would have forever. I don't know what I want to do, and I can't do what I was doing. And on top of that, I had lost my job. So it was like 50 billion emotions like smashed together. And I went back to therapy. So it was like a life and mental health journey. Somewhere in there, I started creating content and writing some content, and I have changed every day since then.
I love that.
Yeah. It's been like 3 years of just like major changes constantly.
Yeah. Is there, because I'm curious, like, for, someone who's listening to this right now, and I think it's a powerful question you ask, is like, what happened? And it's like, if we can take a moment and pause in our life and ask yourself, like, what do I like? What do I hate? Am I enjoying this? Am I not? Like, and kind of like self-assess ourselves in a sense. And let's say someone gets there and they go, okay, I'm like, I'm hearing you guys right now and I'm realizing like what happened in my own life. So I'm curious for you, like, what was was there like an exercise or process you took yourself through, or like, kind of how did you go from being like, what happened to like, being back on track?
Yeah. I mean, I think the first thing was realizing that I hadn't been living my life for me. That's kind of where it all turned. And I had to be like, what would I be doing if I wasn't doing what I thought I was supposed to be doing? When somebody, your life is kind of set up, it's not set up for you, but there is the correct way to move through your lifeline according to someone. It's not correct. It's right. It's just an idea that we have. It's just kind of, oh my gosh, it's so much unlearning. I'd say
it is
that those are the steps. The steps are unlearning that, like, your productivity isn't your value. Your job does not have to be your life. Your career is not your identity. And then kind of trying to figure out who you are, which is scary. But it's trying things. For me, it's just been trying stuff, trying new things, writing.
Yeah.
Therapy.
Yeah. It is interesting. It's like sort of what I imagined when you said like unlearning and kind of all those processes, is like almost removing all the filters that you have in your life. You're like, well, this filter is what my mom said. Let me remove that for a second. And this filter is what I used to always hear my relatives say. And this is what one of my teachers said. But it's like, if you removed all those things and you said, well, like, such a powerful question. Again, if I didn't do what I was doing, like what I thought I was supposed to be doing, what else would I be doing? And it's just like, to allow your mind to go to that place. You may have one of those moments where you like this thing and you'll answer it, almost be like that doesn't make any sense. So like, why would my mind go there? But it's like, you got to listen to that. And if you listen to that sort of weird, like, okay, why did I say, baseball, or like whatever you said, if you allow yourself to go down that road, like, you never know what you're going to come across. And so I'm curious, as you started trying these different things and sort of like experimenting, what was your favorite thing you tried?
So I mean, besides creating content, which is like a huge piece of it, and it is
Yeah.
just kind of exploring myself. I obviously didn't realize I was missing this huge creative outlet, and I've always been a creative person, and
Mm.
I wasn't doing anything with that. I've always been a person who like sewed, and well, as a kid,
Yeah.
and my favorite thing so far has been arranging flowers.
Nice.
It's it's this very like tedious task that is just it's not mindless, but like you're totally removed from your day and you're just like
Yeah.
looking at something. I mean, I imagine what it's like to paint a picture or any artistic endeavor, but just like trying something different.
Yeah.
um a little bit more like travel, which I've never really done because I always
Mm.
worked and had events, and trying to go to new places. We made new friends, and in the middle
Yeah.
of the winter, like went to the beach. But I just think I wanted to go back to what you said about the lens layers, like removing them
Yeah.
one at a time, because I loved that so much, and it's totally what it is. And that's how every day is kind of for me, is like, what am I thinking about today? How am I feeling? And then like, what's a thing that I need to challenge today?
Mm.
Um,
Interesting. What's
and
something
going,
you've challenged recently?
summer is always like bringing up a lot of body stuff because it's warm out and you have to wear shorts and stuff.
Yeah.
So even just yesterday, it was just kind of that reminder that like, my body is the least interesting thing about me. Because that is not the way you are raised. Like anybody, I don't think I've never remembered not coming forward. You're coming forward with your people see you first,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and that's tough because that's the first judgment that anybody's going to make on you. And to recognize that if that's what they're doing, that's not on me, that's on them. That's
Yeah.
a huge one. That's a huge one to take away. Like what you think about my body, and if you think that has anything to do with who I am, that's not on me. That's on you.
Yeah.
And just being more confident to like go into spaces and not wait to look a certain way to go places.
Yeah.
I've had a long journey of eating disorders and a lot of that space as well in my life. So that was one of the most recent ones I've just kind of been trying to overcome, especially
Right.
because in the winter you can just sort of hole up and hide away. But saying yes to things, even though I'm like, I don't want to go because I don't have any clothes.
Yeah. Yeah. And like removing that filter, like you said, though, of like, if you grew up and someone said something about, body image or whatever it was, it's like, well, what's important to me? Right. And like, what's going to add to the quality of my life? Right. And like, what are the beliefs I want to have around this? And it's like building your own beliefs around your life and the things that are important in your life rather than taking somebody else's beliefs. And obviously it's easier said than done. But it's definitely something that, like really important to pay attention to. And it's interesting when you say that. It makes me think of there's a guy's name is, I'm going to butcher his last name, Nick Sinatano. His last name is very difficult to spell and say. And basically he was born with one arm, no legs. And
Is he the
maybe
one
you've
that
seen
does
him.
makeup?
No, he doesn't do makeup, but no, but he did have
Oh,
like a Vine earlier in the day when he would dress up like a zombie and go into stores with just one arm and like scare people, and it went viral, which I'm like, that's the greatest thing ever. But one of the lessons he got from it, which was really interesting, is just that he was like, if I meet someone and they look at me and they, are like have some crazy reaction where they don't even want to interact with me or whatever. He's like, all that I know from that is those are not the people that I want in my life anyway. Like, if you're going to
totally.
judge me based off of my characteristics, then you do not need to be in my life. And he kind of turned it around to like, people used to have all this judgment and what stuff to like, this has actually helped me find the right people to surround myself.
So this has been a huge thing. When people are like, how do you deal with the pressures of social media, et cetera, et cetera? And I said, I don't find a lot of those because I keep my feeds clear of those things. And I think that's
Mm,
so important along that same realm, like to keep my mental health and to keep myself sane, I don't follow anybody that I wouldn't want to talk to. Like I don't see anything that I don't want to see.
I love that. Heck yeah. So now if we go back into your life, you're now event planning again. So things happen, laid off. I'm sure, I was in the event space a bit when all this happened as well. And obviously changed because you couldn't do events, but I'm curious, are you back with the same company or like clearly in this self-exploration, there was a party that goes, okay, I still really do love doing this.
So here's what I learned
Yes.
as far as finding direction. I am very well suited for my job. And then I had to accept that I was no longer going to let my job be my whole life. I go to work and I make money, and that allows me to do all of the other things that I want to do, which is a privilege because I get to explore the rest of my life and I get to keep creating content and I get to, go on podcasts and do all of this other stuff because I have something to pay the bills. And I'm great at event planning. And that was kind of one of those other things I'm learning through this whole thing was there's a big difference between being good at something and liking it. Because I think that's how we get trapped in things sometimes. You're like, well, I'm very, very good at math, so I'm going to go into accounting or I'm going to go into, bookkeeping or be a math teacher. And it's like, well, do you like it or are you good at it? And that is how I ended up here. I'm great at it. It fits all of my skills.
Right.
Detail oriented, fast paced, like keeps me busy. And, I love to solve a problem and be on my feet and keep things moving, but it isn't what I don't want it to be my whole life, which is what I had let it be previously. I just have so many more boundaries surrounding my job than I used to. Had to come to terms with a job is just a job. I never used to be the kind of person who could leave at the end of the day and leave it behind. And now that I know that I don't want it to be my whole life, I am way better at walking away. Like, I get the day's over. Goodbye. And I'm still getting the job done, which blows my own mind. Where I'm like, I didn't know I could still be doing this successfully if I wasn't putting 150% into it.
Right.
And now I'm like, I only have 100%. That's a whole me. And I am giving the minimal amount that still gets the job done.
Right. You're still doing the thing, but it's not like who you are.
Yeah. It's totally my career, and it's not my path in life. Like, it is not who I am at all. And every day it's nonstop learning, which is hard too, because it's actively happening all of the time. But no, I am event planning, and it is busy and it's good. People always ask me about it and online in spaces. They're like, tell us about your job. And I'm like, why don't you ask me about me?
And it's a beautiful thing and it's powerful again to like not identify just with the thing that you do, right? And be like, well, I'm valuable because this is my role, or I'm valuable. It's like, no, you're valuable because you're a human, and for every beautiful aspect of who you are. And you also happen to do this thing, right? Like, kind of the image I saw when you were saying that was just like, almost like is it like iguanas that shed their skin or something like that? But how like, or maybe it's snakes. I don't know. But it's like
snakes shed their skin. Iguanas lose their tails and they just grow back.
Okay. So basically it was like, I don't know, just the image of like, you almost like cracking open the exterior identity of who you thought you were and realizing like there's this beautiful identity inside of that has so many other pieces of,
and not tying up all of your self-worth. Like, my self-worth was tied up in everything else, like in my job. So when you lose it, I realized I was like, I have nothing else. I have no other way that I look at myself and feel valuable. And I always say that's like the number one thing I took away from all of this, like finding direction in my life, is for sure that my productivity and my career have nothing to do with my self-worth. And that's another one that I find that other people have such a hard time with.
Yeah.
Like, well, I'm not doing anything. Like, I just laid here all day. And it's like, so still valuable,
Yeah.
still worthy. Like, are you a good person? Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's, for anyone listen to this, if you're hearing this right now and you identify with your work, I think it's a really good moment to like pause in your life and ask, okay, well, like what other things do I enjoy? What other pieces are there to this? Like, let's say we're obviously more than 5 pieces, but it's like if your one piece was your work and that's what you've identified, ask yourself, like, what could those 4 other things be that I value myself and that I love myself around, that are just like cool little twerks or tweaks and things about who I am and like this bigger picture. And I think it's a good place to kind of understand that you are not your work, you are not your role, you are more than that. And once you do that, like I obviously never had a conversation with you before you went through all this, but talking to you now, there's like a lightness in your demeanor, which I feel like maybe wasn't there before.
100%. Yeah. There's definitely just, it's a lighter life. My whole life feels lighter, which I think is wild. Like,
Yeah.
I physically just like feel like, not like in a toxic, positively way, but just taking away the power from all of these things I had my worth tied up in has changed everything.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be tied up in any of that. Like, my worth is just my worth.
Mic drop. That's it. So let's say we eventually, you kind of go through your life. You have this like beautiful, well, also nasty, but turned into a beautiful, like sort of COVID experience that helped you learn all these things about you. And it's like, I think that's sometimes part of life is you go through the crap to understand, like, what's actually there, like to find the gold. And you did that. And I'm curious, as you went back into eventually saying like, okay, I'm going to go back to event planning. I'm going to go back to like also having a career. What were some of the biggest, I know you said one thing is like shutting it off when you shut it off and like not just identifying as work, but were there any other big sort of lessons you took back with you as you went back into the workforce? Because I think a lot of people that are listening to this maybe had something similar where you went back to a different experience post COVID. And I just sense there's more learnings you had.
It's not that I don't want to come across like flippant, like I don't care about it. But I put a lot less. Oh, I don't want to say bare minimum because that's not it.
It sounds like you do what you need to do to get the job done.
It's get the job done and go home. That, and I always said the whole time I had this job, I said I could never work from home. Like I could never make that work. Like I need to be here where this is happening. And now I work from home and I'm like, this is fine. It's I'm getting the job done. I just needed to learn how to do it in a different way.
So as you went back to work, I think there's one thing I'd be curious to ask you, and I've heard you mention it somewhere before, but kind of this idea that in society, I guess we'll call it, we're very much programmed. Again, one of these filters that we have in our life is go, 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 work as hard as you possibly can, exhaust yourself because like that's just the way you're supposed to do it. And that's the way that you like make it. And I'm just curious, like, what are your thoughts on this sort of like go, go, go mentality that we have?
Okay, I have a lot of thoughts on it. I'm like, one of my other things, I'm just like trying to deconstruct that hustle culture. It's one of those conversations and kind of arguments that I get into, even with my parents still now. When I say all of this is very unsustainable, the workload that we've been doing our whole lives is unsustainable. And the response is always like, well, it's hard for everybody. And I said, well, why is that the norm? It's hard for everybody, so it should just continue to be hard for everybody. Don't you think shouldn't we step back, find the root of this problem? Like, why is the workspace so unsustainable? Why are we burning through our employees? Why is everybody burnt out? Like all this long-term burnout, that's going to take years to heal because none of us stopped ever. And it's so real, the burnout. And I think it's going to be a whole generation because especially like millennials and Gen X and Zillennials, we don't have breaks. We have had a phone, we've had a cell phone, we have had a laptop the entire time we've been in the workforce. We have never been able to be unavailable. people cannot even fathom that, when they say, well, I just worked hard, you just have to work hard too. We worked hard till we retired. I'm like, okay, but you got to retire at 60, and working hard still meant you got to leave work and nobody could call you. So I think it's tough to, it's this mentality that got passed on, but the situations are so different.
Yeah.
I think we're going to find a lot more that like all these younger people in the workforce are going to burn out on work unless we change it. And I think lots of people are changing it. I think the pandemic, unfortunately, made a huge change for so many people where we got to shift our mindset about work. We got to shift our mindset about hustle, grind, make it to the top. And I think people are, that deconstructing that American dream, that's actually a nightmare. And for me personally, on the hustle culture, I always say, okay, I did it. I made my way to the top. I bought the company. I'm now in charge of this company.
Yeah.
And nothing happened. There was nothing magic happened. I did what I was supposed to do. I climbed the ladder. I did the work and I got to the top. And what now? There was nothing there. And I think that was another eye opener where you think like, oh yeah, if I get the job and I get the promotion and I get to the top, like that's going to be it. I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And you're like, what are you going to figure out? I got up there and I was like, oh no, nope. Still don't have any of the answers. Still not happy. Still feeling overworked and burnt out. Which was, I don't want that to happen to other people for sure. But it did lend to me being like, this is all kind of bullshit, I think. I don't think this works.
Yeah.
I don't know. My passion now is being happy.
Yeah. I think that's what it's about, right? It's like living a life where you're happy, you're joyful, you wake up excited about what you do. And I think one of the biggest things in what you're saying as well is it's not waiting for some time or for something or for some title to do it. It's making a decision consciously that like, I'm going to choose happiness today. I'm going to choose to feel successful today. I'm going to choose to feel, whatever it is today. And it's not something that's going to give it to you. Like you are the one that's going to give that to you. So why not choose it today rather than waiting so long? And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people wait too long.
They do. And I watch it's so hard to watch people like, I'm waiting to be in a relationship and then I'll be happy. Like once I find somebody and then get married and then we'll be happy. And you're like, why can't you be happy today? Why is there a ladder you have to climb to be happy? What?
Yeah. It shouldn't be external. It should be internal. And I think when you can truly understand that like you can create in this moment right now, whatever you want, as far as like how you want to feel and all those things. So why not choose to do it now rather than wait?
Yeah. I remember it was a long time ago. I was probably a teenager. And I remember one of my friends, I said, when am I going to get to be happy? And he said, that's not really how it works. He was like, you have to go find it. And I was like, oh no. Because everyone tells you like, if you do the things you're supposed to do, then you'll have that dream life and you'll be happy.
Yeah.
But nobody says, did you know that you can just be happy right now?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I can? I had not considered it, but I'm considering it now.
Yeah. And if you're listening right now and you're not happy, again, another important moment to ask yourself, am I waiting for something to make me happy? Or am I waiting to get to some place or for the girlfriend, the boyfriend, the title, the promotion to be happy? Or are you going to choose it today? And if you are waiting for something, I think both of us could say, it's time to kind of dig into that a little bit. And
yeah. I mean, you can have goals and like dreams and stuff, but achieving them isn't the end all be all.
Yeah.
It's the living. It's the living of the life that should be the life part.
Yeah. So, one other question I have kind of on the burnout idea and thought is like, what if you're someone who you're like, I love working. I enjoy doing this. Like, like I enjoy what I do and I love putting in work. How does someone like that, let's say, avoid burnout if like they really do genuinely love it?
Oh, this one is you're attacking me personally. um, you still have to set boundaries, like you just
Mm.
do. And you have to say, like, there is a cutoff to this. There's an amount of time I can dedicate to this. It's back to that same point. You only have 100%. So you cannot go over 100%. Every time you go over 100%, you create a deficit. So you have to decide, like, I will put in 50% of my effort to this thing that I really care about, but I
Mm.
still have to put in 10% to feeding myself and bathing myself. And I still have to put in 10%
Yeah.
to, nurturing the relationships in my life. And you can't go over 100. You cannot
Mm.
give the thing you love 110%, even if you want to, because you can only do that for so long before you're totally, totally roasted.
Yeah. That's an interesting way to look at it. It's like if you have 100%, where are you putting your percentages?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I'm gonna have to take a look at that. I like that.
It's
So
it's one it's a recent thing I started doing. I was like, what am I doing? Like, I do not have this kind of time because I am trying to do two full-time jobs right now, and I do have to put limits on certain things that I'm doing.
yeah, it's like if you're, I don't know why, for some reason I'm getting all these like metaphors today, but it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like if you were like, you have like a mud hill that's like everything's going down, you're trying to like run up the hill that's sliding down. It's like, well, if that's kind of what your life's like, it's like you may be trying to do 130% when you have 100%. So you need to look at uh, what are
You
you
might need to
overdoing it
stop
in?
trying to climb that hill for a second and just like pause.
Yeah.
That's always my thing. It's like when things are going too fast and I know I'm totally in over my head. It's like you got to stop. You have to stop all of it for a minute and
Yeah.
redirect.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, Anna, it's been a pleasure to have you here. I think there's so many cool things we could continue to talk about, but I'm curious for people who've hung out with us today and they're going, man, I want to see more of Anna. I want to hang out with her. I want to get to know more what you're up to. Obviously, we know you do some screaming and yelling in fields. So if they want to see some of that as well. So, overall, where's the best place for people to find you, hang out with you, and just kind of stay in your world?
Yeah, I'm AKPRZY on TikTok and Instagram. I'm on YouTube, but we're working on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of those things I would do if I didn't have healthy boundaries with myself. But I'm like, we
Mm,
can only handle so much. There is
yeah.
only so much I can dedicate my time to.
Yeah.
And that's about it. Yeah, I have like some merch. I have a trip to Costa Rica coming up if anyone wants to come and
Heck yeah.
reset your life.
Love it. So cool. Well, we'll put all that in the show notes so it's super easy for everybody to access. And last question I have for you, because we ask every guest this, and we believe in helping people find direction, but doing it through like action, like doing something about it. And so I'm curious for you, like, what would you say is one thing someone listening to this right now can do in the next 24 to 48 hours to start finding direction in their life?
Take an inventory of how you actually feel about the things that are already taking up your life. Because
Mm,
it's like Marie Kondoing it. Like, is this, adding to my life or is this not adding to my life? And the things that aren't adding to your life are just extra baggage that are not going to help
yeah.
you find your way anywhere.
Yeah. Amazing. I love that. Take an inventory. I'm excited for everyone that's listening to this to, make sure you take inventory in your life. And I think it's going to open up a lot of beautiful doors to explore and a lot of beautiful things. So, Anna, thank you again so much for being here. Massively, massively enjoyed having you on today.
Thank you so much.